Hello, I'm Nick from nextstepnick.com, and with me is Dan.
Hey.
Hello, and we've been having a bit of a go on the Ghost Recon Breakpoint beta today. So, just a quick disclaimer at the start of this. There's a lot of bits and pieces that I've personally run into here. We did have like an hour's worth of footage. I have popped these bits and pieces up just because this is an example of the kind of experience I personally had. I know yours was a little bit different, wasn't it, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, my game loaded a bit faster. It's not on an SSD. I just don't know how we had such different experiences, to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I wanted to highlight, really, was that with these clips here, this is an example of what I'm seeing. So, like this loading screen here, I have cut bits out because it did take longer than this. But what I think we really wanted to talk about was just differences in gameplay on a beta between two different VIGs. I mean, I know your computer is very high end. Mine isn't too bad. Mine is, competent. I can run the majority of things, but I've not experienced anything like this for a very long time. And it's just a case of highlighting the kind of issues that I saw in the beta and just things that, to be honest, they're a little bit worrying to see when we're seeing this game come out on the 4th of October.
Yeah, and obviously I bring up the fact that it might just be a case of the engine conflicting with your rig. I've seen plenty of times where that actually happens, where a perfectly capable rig just conflicts with a game. Yeah. But you play Rainbow Six Siege and other Tom Clancy games and other Ghost Recon games just fine. So I don't understand what's happened. I don't believe this is using a new engine, so I don't understand why it's just been a bit of a struggle this time around. And my gameplay changed when joining a game with you, and your gameplay changed when joining a game with me. My internet's capable, your internet's capable. I mean, it's English internet, so it's not 500 megabits a second, but it's. I don't think internet is playing here. I don't think internet is the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to have a really good internet connection anyway. I tend to play a lot of MMOs, so I've been playing a lot of Final Fantasy 14, things like that, and I've not really had any issues in regard to connectivity or speed or upload or download speed. It's just one of the reasons why we were both completely honestly humming and hawing about this video, because we were both not sure whether or not we wanted to talk about this. There's this whole thing of, it's a beta. There's this whole thing of maybe the different rigs, bits and pieces like that. But I think the important thing was, what we really wanted to highlight here was the difference in experience between two computers. Even if both of them are capable of running a game, for example, you can still have this massive difference in experience. And it worries me that a title like this a week before release, you'll see here, for example, there's a cutscene here, takes quite a long time to load in, we still don't get textures, and then for some reason it goes to another loading screen to show me a different part of a cutscene, and the times are just, I don't know what to say about it really. I've not played anything that has an issue like this for a very, very long time, and I think the problem is, I don't know if you agree with me, Dan, but the issue is that if you meet the specifications of a specific title and you try and do your workarounds and they still don't work, there's an element of, well, what do you do? So, for example, in this situation, I don't really know how I could adapt in a way in which to enjoy this.
You see, looking at this, what you're seeing on the screen now, this is shortened as well. The loading into the game is at least double the length. And then as soon as you get into the game, you've gone to, I forgot his name already, Shoals, I think his name was. You've gone to talk to him, and you're loading just a very, very short mini scene, to go back in the past. And this is crazy. We're 5 minutes into a video now, and you've literally walked from 2 meters to talk to an NPC, and you're finally there. And this scene here, this has got to be like a 30-second clip.
Yeah, and I don't know where this issue is here. You'll see it's lagging out here, but I can't understand why that is. I'm not sure. I'm not getting any sort. There was a really weird issue where I wasn't sure about whether or not it was my hardware or not. You'll see a clip quite soon about of us in a helicopter, and I'm able to rotate around the helicopter with quite a good frame rate, but the helicopter is frozen in place. It's a bit like when you disconnect from an online game, where you can still see everything and all the players are there, but oh, hang on a minute, my connection's dropped. And it was like that, but I was running connection tests at the same time just to confirm, and there wasn't anything going on like that. So it's strange to me that something like that occurred. I mean, I know when you were playing, you were having a much smoother experience, especially during this bit where you're flying the helicopter at this point, and I'm sort of riding pinion. But
Yes,
during
this is. Go on, sorry.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, this is you in my game here, and I'm running just fine. But what you're seeing, and what obviously the audience is seeing, is this choppy kind of broken apart, like what I experienced and what you experienced. Because I actually, after playing with helicopters in other games, I'm used to a different set of controls. So what I accidentally do is I eject, and I'm telling you to jump out. I've jumped out ages before, and communicating that to you, which you hear. We're fully aware of what I'm telling you. Like we're having a conversation during this whole scene, and
here we go.
I've jumped, I parachuted out, and you're unaware of what's going on. And 2 seconds later, you're on the floor burning out. You think you've survived, and in reality, you're a burning wreck.
Well, for example, here you'll see this, and I've not seen this issue before, to be honest. Apart from, like I say, when you drop out of a game because of a latency issue. But you'll see that the helicopter on my screen, here we've got a choppy frame rate, of course, but you'll see it freeze as if nothing else is moving. Here we go. But you'll see that I can still rotate my camera on quite a good frame rate around my own body. So it's not like I've got any sort of freezing issue on my end in regard to my rig. At this point, I'm sort of opening up different windows and checking that everything else is running and checking my GPU. But for some reason, the game has just cut me out here, and all of a sudden, this is at the point you were saying about where you've jumped out, and I'm on the ground here, and then I'm dead, and I don't quite understand how that sort of issue arises. I'm not sure whether it's an optimization issue. I'm not sure, like you say, if it's a conflict in regard to hardware. But I think that's the important thing to address, really, is that people are going to get this on the assumption that, for example, my rig meets that software requirement, and unfortunately, I hope they don't, but they might end up having these same problems. And I think it's something that, especially in a beta so close to release, really needs to be talked about, because it really needs to be, whether it's one person having this issue, whether it's 100 people having this issue, whether it's 1,000 people having this issue, it's just as important and just as relevant, because it means that someone who meets your specification is still having an issue. And that's a problem.
Yeah, well, I did a little bit of Googling and seeing whether this issue is happening to other people. And there's people who have better rigs than me that are saying that they're having inconsistent frame rate. They're having just general bad experience. They're contemplating cancelling their pre-order and all the rest of it. Whereas some people with a little bit of a weaker rig are getting on just fine. So I've seen it before, I've seen it happen, but obviously we're a week away from release now. It should either run or it shouldn't. And, I meet the recommended requirements, you meet the recommended requirements. So for us to have two polar opposite experiences, and that's not to say that my game ran perfectly. I encountered less bugs than you did, but, this beta is actually optimized, and it claims it heralds the fact that it is optimized for co-op, and this is anything but. This is still you in my game. Yeah. I'm doing okay, but you're just going through hell.
Well, this is another example here. You've seen me use the parachute, and what's happened there is I've jumped off the edge of something, used the parachute, it's deployed. I've done the same thing again a couple of seconds later, and this time it's a different situation. Likewise here. At this point, we've actually switched over, so I am now the host, just to see if there's an issue in regard to maybe potentially internet. And as you can see, my guns aren't loading in now. I get some really strange texture and skin problems here, but I'm unable to fire my weapons. I can't actually utilise my guns or anything like that. There's nothing I can do here. But the other issue is that vehicles, enemies, all those kind of things, they're not popping in. So it's a case of I'm not actually able to do anything. I can't interact with the world whilst this is happening, but the world can interact with me. So, for example, later on, you'll see it when we're inside an area where there are enemies shooting at us. I can't actually see them. I mean, now I'm holding a grenade, but there's nothing there. And then my guns, as you've seen, will just pop in. I mean, here is another good example. I'm just switching through weapons, and if you watch my right arm, you'll just see it pop through my body. There we go. And there's a lot of just different bits and pieces that I've just not seen. I mean, this was a helicopter flight on my game, and as you can see, I can still pan around the helicopter. I can still interact, but for some reason it's just frozen in place, and that's not an issue that I've ever really encountered with anything for a long time. And I think the problem is that, like you were saying as well, we're very, very close to release, and I think everyone is very sketchy about this whole live service model, especially after things like Fallout 76, especially after things like Anthem, titles like that have left a bitter taste in people's mouths.
Yeah, and see, with this, with the helicopter chopping away is, but you're still freely able to move. That suggests to me that there's something else in play here. This is the big one. I see exactly what you see here. There's a side mission, a mini mission, whatever you want to call it, and without the location, thinking that something's meant to be going on here. There's a random PC complex there to interact with. Just pops out in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of the road, which is very bad placement, regardless of whether or not it's intended. And eventually, we're just here, kind of trying to interact with the laptop. Not happening. Eventually, some weird drone thing pops up.
Yep, there it is. There,
wonderful, cool. And then out of nowhere, we're getting absolutely rained upon.
If you're watching the mini map in the bottom right here, you'll see just red flaring up where enemy pockets are on the map. And at this point, for example, the game is it's chugging away here because there's so many different textures and different assets here loading in at once. And so we end up in this situation where basically we're both pinned down, we don't know what to do, and we're killed. And the problem is that this is an example of how this kind of issue goes from being something quite humorous. I mean, for example, when the guns weren't loaded initially and things like that, we were both sort of having a bit of a laugh about it. Same thing with the helicopter. We were both sort of laughing about it because, of course, it's a teething problem for beta games. Of course it is. But then this is the problem, is that when it starts to become an impact wherein you cannot appreciate the end product, you cannot appreciate the end game, then you have to kind of stand back and say, well, hang on a minute. What's going on here? I don't understand. Why is this an issue?
And this is exactly the thing I was talking to you about in another video. This game retails at $60. This game comes out at £50. And I'm sorry, but I've played more intensive games. Games which make my PC warm up, and for cheaper, and had better experiences from the get-go. Okay, yeah, it's not released. Maybe there's a couple more things to do, but your bugs and your game running should be down by this point. We're a week away from release, and this is what we got, and that's scary.
I think the thing that bothers me is because I know what Ubisoft are capable of. I've seen things like Siege, for example, which is really impressive, really good game. I've seen the way that started as a live service model, and it's just gotten progressively better and better, and it's something that I really enjoy now. But then here, for example, really weird bug here, when I zoom in to check, because of course my guns haven't loaded in again, for some reason my character's beard just appears. You'll see that in a minute. But I think that's the thing, is that it's more unnerving because we live in an era of live service, and that means that whereas before you'd buy a game and the game would be finished, here you're looking at a title where you could purchase this and you could wait for a few months before these issues are fixed. And if you're one of the unlucky people, you'll see my beard there, if you're one of the unlucky people that this affects, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's just an unfortunate situation, but I mean, hopefully, like we say, it is the beta. Hopefully Ubisoft is looking at things like this now and potentially putting those fixes in, but it just worries me that it's this close to release and we still have these problems, like you say. I mean, I don't know how much work you can do before the game is launched with these kind of issues. Is there going to be a day one patch? I don't know. But anyway, thank you very much for listening to the video, everyone. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It really does help out. That's on the website and the YouTube channel. Honestly, it means the world to us if you do. It helps us to keep creating content, helps us to keep things fresh. And please head over to the website to see more articles. That's www.nextstepnick.com. Dan, do you have anything to add about the game just before we go?
No, I think we've wrapped it up. Obviously, with all things aside, I'm sure it will come out and it will have a decent success. But right now, I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. Is that it's the kind of title where both of us have seen great things from Ubisoft in the past, and there's a certain degree of I expect a certain kind of these kind of games, especially like you say at the high price points. I expect a certain degree of polish and class, and I know these guys are capable of so much more, so I really want to see that. But Anyway, everyone, thank you very much for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
Sweet.